Good evening, everyone. Everyone, we are excited. We are excited. We have reached book three in the Enigma series, and I am more. I'm just so excited to discuss this book, Slick, with our beloved author, Aja. But before I bring her on, I want to make sure those of you that are joining us in this discussion, we want this to be a very fluid discussion. We want it to be organic. We want to enjoy each other, and we want you all to be a part of it. And so, if you don't mind, please make sure that you click on that link for the StreamYard link, so that way your name appears. So then that way we can do the proper shout out, and also we want to properly address your questions. So please do that so that we can have a wonderful time. I'm just delighted again for this opportunity. As you can tell, I just love Aja and I love her work. And so let's bring on our beloved Aja so we can get right into it. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello, hello, hello. So let's take a deep breath and release. So let's talk first. We're now at your the third book in the series, which is a departure from your signature, from your style. So how do you feel? How do you feel stepping out of your comfort zone, approaching this type of series, and now we're in the third book of the series? Tell us how you feel about it.
Right now, I feel relieved to be through it. Um, I won't say through with it, but through the process of completing the Enigma series as we know it, and giving readers the characters that I introduced them to last year. Um, well, really, they were kind of introduced prior to that within the Soulmate series, but I feel blessed as well. So relieved and blessed because I feel like this series blessed me in that it confirmed once again that I'm a writer because I can decide what I want to write and I can write it. I don't have to stay in a box. Now, there are places that I may not feel comfortable going, and so I may never do it. But to know that I challenged myself and I succeeded based on my goals, I just feel great about that. And then I'm excited. I'm just excited about what may come now that I've completed this series. There's so many things that are in the works mentally and some, things that are actually in the work from, like an outline perspective that I'm looking forward to working on.
Great, great. And I think it even should encourage other authors that are out there. Like if you were to pass words of inspiration to other authors, because sometimes readers and yourself will put yourself sometimes in a box. So, what advice would you share based off your now experience with the Enigma series? Would you share with aspiring authors or authors that are, trying to figure out their niche?
We come into the industry with different goals. Some of us come in to make money on this gift that we have, and some of us are doing it because we have this gift and we have to use it. So money may not be the objective, and maybe something that comes along. We care about the marketing, the business of it, but initially what drives so many of us is just our love and passion for writing. And if that is the thing that's still with you and you find that you're kind of stuck in a rut, is try to go back to the beginning, to when you started, how you felt when you were writing, and what did you want to write? What were the stories that you wanted to tell? And feel free enough to write those stories. Now, from a business perspective, that may not be the best advice. So you may not choose to use your name that you're currently publishing under. You may choose to create a pen name. There may be things that you do that allows you to do that without confusing readers, losing readers. I get all of that. I get the business, but you're a writer. There was something in your spirit that you wanted to do. There were stories that you wanted to tell, and you've gotten caught up in catering to what everyone wants, and that's okay. But if it's slowing you down and it's getting you stuck in that rut, just write the story you want to tell, and then decide what you want to do with it. Like I said, if you have to create a pen name, but something that allows you to feel that joy. Because when I'm free to write what I want to write, I love what I'm doing. And that's what I want to be doing. Like, I left a corporate job that I was hating
Mm,
to write. So the last thing I want to do is now this become that corporate job where I'm hating my job every single day. So, that would be my advice, is to be free, because this is art. It's art. People are consuming it, people are enjoying it, people tear it apart. Um, it's art though, and art is freedom.
mm,
It's freedom. It should not be confined. Um, and while there are rules to genres that you must follow, you want to be free with the pen. So then you just decide what you do with the material that you produce. And that would be my advice. Have fun doing what you're doing.
yeah.
Love it. Yeah.
That's powerful. And it's funny because I had a conversation with someone yesterday about, the phrase, this part in the Bible where it says God loves a cheerful giver. And, people quickly think of money, but really it's the giftings and the purpose and the passion that God has given us. And so if we're doing it grudgingly, God is not pleased with that. So we definitely have to be cheerful,
Hmm.
like, and you said it, like, you have to have that joy, that freedom. And if you feeling otherwise, it's probably best not to even try to put that out on the literary streets, because I
Right.
think readers will pick up on that, like, no, that's not her
Hmm.
spirit.
Yeah.
So good. All right. All right. So let's get into it. All right. So when we were introduced to Slick, right, in the other two books, she appeared to be reckless in her decision making and her movements. But in this book, you gave us Sarai. And before we even dive into her personality, I guess the question that I want you to address is, what lessons, because you always give us a spiritual component. What lessons do you want us, your readers, to learn in how we draw perceptions of others?
That's a that's a great question. You were good. We come into this world by ourselves, and we're on this journey by ourselves. We bring people along. And there's some people that were involved in us coming here, so they're already around. And then we have some people that come along on this ride and this journey, but it's us. And we're living our lives doing the very best that we can with the gift of the people around us. But we can't live for them, because they got their own journey, their own path that they're dealing with, just like we are. And oftentimes we get so caught up in pleasing them and looking a certain way to these other people that are on this journey with us, because for some reason we start to believe it's their journey. You know what I mean? Like, we're in this together. And that's like a difficult thing, especially when you start pairing up. You're married, you have children, you might have your siblings, y'all may be tight, you know. You think you're all in it together. You are, but you aren't. You
Mhm,
have your own lessons, you got your own life. And we often are worrying about what they think about the decisions that we're making and the path that we're taking, but we can't. We can listen to their advice when we ask it of them, or when they feel compelled. It's on their spirit to share. But we've got to do what comes to us in our heart. Just like we were just talking about,
mhm,
writing the stories that are on our heart. We have to do that because it's our life. No one else is living this life for us. God gave it to us. and he intended us to live it fully. Okay, so we cannot worry about what other people are thinking, because guess what? They're worried. They're
Mhm.
worried about their own thing. They got their own concerns. So we cannot worry about the perception of other people. But the reality is, we do, especially someone like me who's a public figure. I may not be the most popular and famous person in the whole wide world, but I put something out for people to consume, and they can, they might love it, they might hate it. And I be caring about what you all think about what I did, because I put my heart out there, so it matters. But at the end of the day, once I am talked off the cliff by the people who love me, the people that I am seeking advice from, I realized that I did put my whole heart into it. And the ones that were supposed to hear my heart are the ones that did. And the ones that it didn't resonate with, it wasn't for them. That story wasn't for them. Maybe another story will be. So I don't know that I answered your question, but I feel like one of the major things that I'm always doing, and when I'm encouraging, whether it's my readers that I'm close to, because those of you who are here and you're part of my group, you know the how I am about you all, and you know that I love you like family. So whether it's my friends' friends, my zoners, whether you're a reader who's reached out to me, anybody that I come in contact with, I'm always encouraging people to be authentically them, to live their most authentic life, and to not live in fear. Because we talk about the Bible, you just mentioned the Bible, there is no fear in love.
Mm.
There's no fear in love. The Bible says it. We get scared though, but those words are a reminder that we need to fight and rise above it. So do not be afraid of the perception of others, and just live your life in love. That's what we need to focus on. Loving, being passionate, and all those
Yes.
things.
Well, let's see. Kimmy says, I didn't break this social media detox for Aja to read me like a novel.
Hey, Kimmy.
And Kimmy also said that that you stay talking to her spirit. And Jennifer even jumped in and said, she was definitely a people pleaser. Um, so yeah, you always give us lessons, nuggets inside of your book, and you did that with this one as well. And I thought also the danger of perceptions, right? Because one, we saw or we perceive Slick as very reckless, but behind that behavior was this little girl who watched her mother walked away and
Hmm.
never returned.
Hmm.
And there she's left, with her brother and her father. And so, and as an educator, when I'm dealing with my students, I always, some teachers will focus on the behavior, like, oh, they're destructive, they're defiant, they're whatever. And I'm like, there's a backstory. There's
Yeah.
a backstory. And we have to be willing to open ourselves to and extend grace, which is not
Mhm.
always easy, right? We
Yeah.
have to be able to extend grace. So I really love this one. And we'll address the difference between the other two books versus this one, and maybe even how the readers perceive the difference. But it was important that we saw the truth of
Mhm.
who Sarai was.
Mhm.
And so that really teaches us to be very careful how we perceive or judge others, because I always believe there's a story behind the
Yeah.
story.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. So quickly, for those that just joined us, make sure if you can click on the link for the StreamYard so we can see your names. We want you part of this discussion. We know Kimmy's already involved, Jennifer's involved, and Sharon. We welcome all of you all for joining us, and so we definitely need you here. And so make sure you get your name in, given Facebook permission to receive your, so we can definitely engage with you. Let's see. Kimmy says we saw three point of views of Sarai, and I love how all three were written. Okay, all
Oh,
right.
wow.
And Brenda mentioned Sarai is a very dynamic character. So, Aja, I think they caught on to what your intent was.
Such a
Um,
blessing.
yeah, so let's talk about in crafting Sarai's story. Kind of walk us through the process and how did you get to produce what you were able to produce and giving us her truth.
When I first started to write her, the very first scene is the very first thing that I wrote. I knew that when I ended the story of Maestro that I needed to deal with how they came to be in this situation with Carmen. Because I knew Carmen was involved from the very beginning. And I had to discover the reasons why she had disappeared on her children and had such a dislike and hatred for her ex. And when I get to Slick's book, I know that I need to address all the missing pieces about her from Sarai's point of view, since I'm writing in first person. It has to start at the beginning, and the very beginning is when it ends. Her relationship with her mother ends. And what starts after her relationship with her mother ends is her imagination, her imagining what it would be like if her mom was still her mom, if her mom was around, if her mom wasn't dead. Because, there was a period of time when they thought Carmen might have been dead. But it was like, it was always kind of left in the balance because of the way the streets work. If you don't see a body, you don't know what really happened to somebody. I mean, think of soap operas. People die on soap operas all the time and they come back to life because there's no body.
Mm-hmm.
So when there's no body, you can always bring somebody back to life. And so I know that Smoke knew that there was always this possibility that Carmen wasn't actually dead, but she was gone, and that was just as good as dead. Because if you leave your children, what are you? You're dead. So I started at the beginning for Slick. In my mind, I was writing Slick's story. But then as I started to write this little girl whose mother left her, and I kept thinking of how monumental my mother was and is in my life, but especially as a little girl. I mean, she was everything. The way she looked, the way she walked and talked, her hair, the things she said to me, the affirmations, all the things she did to build me up. I thought, what would it have been like if all of a sudden that ceased to exist at a time when I'm learning how to be a girl and before I even have a chance to learn how to be a woman? That would be so detrimental. It wouldn't be like she's just going to grow up and just be all she can be. There's going to be a thing that's taken from her. She's going to be robbed. And what does that feel like to be robbed of your potential? I was upset for her. I wept for her because I thought of all the things my mother was there for that Sarai's mother wasn't there for. That not only was she not there for it, but these situations weren't even presented to her because the mother wasn't there to present it, you know? And then
Mm-hmm.
having a grandmother who comes from a time when so she's like she's disconnected. So she's not trying to be cool. She's not trying to keep her daughter, her granddaughter, in the same situations that the mother would have done. She's trying to keep her from all these wayward situations. So now she doesn't have anyone that even understands her, who's even going to talk, teach, mentor, guide her. She just has someone who says, "Don't go here, don't do this, stay right here." And with a father that she had and with a brother that was becoming like his father, it was very tough for Slick to remain untouched and unmoved by um, the life of the gangster, while at the same time being very undeveloped in the life of a woman because her mother was missing. So I started to write Slick, and I ended up just writing Sarai, because if I'm going to be honest in the story, I'm inside her head. I don't care what you see when you look at me. We were just talking about perception. There is what you see when you look at me, but then I got my own thoughts in my head. I got my
Mhm.
own feelings that are happening at the moment. You're looking at me, but that's not me. Sometimes you're on, sometimes someone shares something that they see about me and they're on point. But you might be looking at me right now and be like, this is the most confident woman in the whole wide world. And I have good confidence, but I might be shivering in my boots at that
Mhm.
moment.
Mhm.
I'm often shivering in my boots when I'm on these lives and I'm talking in front of people, but no one knows that. So, see, the perception is that I'm confident. And in that moment, I'm feeling insecure. This is the difference. This is the difference between Slick and Sarai. You know she can carry that gun. You know she knows how to use it. You know she knows how to use a knife. You know she done sliced and diced everybody up.
Right.
We've seen it from the other point of view, but inside, as she's doing that, she's an angry, hurt woman who doesn't even know that she's a woman because she was so undeveloped in what it meant to be a woman. What does that even mean? What is softness in a woman? How can she even be that? How is she even going to be loved when every man that comes along lies to her and tells her whatever to get what they want, and then they end up fucking it up? She don't even know love, not
Mhm.
real love.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. I'm really
No,
not
you good. You good
about.
because in the comments, I mean, they are excited, like they're going in, like just talking that they could see the difference between Sarai and Slick. This young girl who needed affirmation from the mother. Someone that was Brenda, angry, hurt little girl. She was stuck. I think that speaks that summarize it. Because I just keep seeing this girl on the doorstep.
Mhm.
Watching her mother walk away, and so how do you process that? Like, how do you grow through that?
Right.
And again, we saw this one slice and dice chick, but again, underneath that was this little girl who
Mhm.
needed her mother, who needed that affirmation. Let's see, Kimmy says, I feel like she did certain things because she was searching for love, trust, and understanding in these guys who didn't deserve her.
And the first two would have been Smoke and Maestro. Like
Mhm.
those two were the first two men she was seeking her support, her confirmation of who she was. She wanted all of that from them, but her father was too busy. Her brother was a boy. Then they grow up to be these assholes. You know what I mean? Like I turned them into lovers, but they were about themselves. They were about running those streets. They were about their business. They loved her, but they are boys. They do not know what
Mhm.
it's like to be a woman or provide her with the softness that is required for us, because we can sit here all day and talk about how strong we are. People say it all the time, how strong and resilient and blah blah blah. I mean,
Ugh,
come on.
right.
We don't have a choice most of the time, but we cry. We hurt. We carry so much pain in us that we never let go of, that we live with day in and day out. We got to hope and pray that we either seek therapy, we find friends, we find hobbies, we find some sort of purpose that helps us work through the things that have occurred to us. But when I look in the faces of so many of my friends and my readers, I look at y'all and I see you done been through some things that you will never tell me about, that you'll never tell the world. No one may know. No one may know
Mhm.
what happened, you know? But that doesn't mean you don't put on a strong front. So yeah, we look strong, but inside we have a lot of broken pieces.
Mhm.
And I wanted to be truthful. I couldn't not be truthful. As I wrote her, I had to write the pain and what that actually does, especially if she didn't get the help and she hadn't received any help. So I needed to get her help. And I'll,
Yeah.
I'll stop there.
No, no. Um, Even Kimmy just jumped in, says, and the depth of her imagination, that scene where she talks about her mom leaving, there was some deep rooted pain in that scene. Um, and Jennifer just said, after you just got through saying, that's a whole word right there. So, um, um,
Thank you.
and I think this is Erica. Every woman needs that safe space to be soft and vulnerable. My gosh. Let's get the collection plate going right there. Okay. Because we do need that. And Jennifer mentions, I'm working on my broken pieces. And so, how do we navigate through that? So, I think in so many ways, us sister girls could really connect with Sarai's story. And I think, like, I'm an avid reader, and probably Jennifer could probably speak to this as well. I notice in a lot of cases we're so hard on the female leads. Like,
Mhm.
we go in, like, we don't extend grace to the female leads. We just, I mean, like, just, I can't believe she thought this through, blah blah blah. But I will say, I think from this one, I think we all could connect in some ways to Sarai's story. So thank you for crafting that. And so it was a departure from Maestro, from
Mhm.
Smoke
Mhm.
story, and I appreciate that you did that departure. And I'm hoping that the readers, when they do grab hold to this book, will not be like, oh, where's the blood and gory. Hopefully they would respect why you did what you did. And I think from the comments from Kimmy and Jennifer and Brenda and Eric, I think they got it too. I think
Okay.
they got it. So, um, and so thank you for that. And so, already in the comments were mentioned about that they felt like Eli and Elijah weren't given the emotional support. So, um,
They couldn't.
yeah, okay,
They couldn't. I think that when, especially when you think about the men in your lives, how different are they from you? How differently do they process their pain? They have it. They have pain just like we do, but they process it differently because most of the time they're being taught to process it differently. It starts at the beginning. That we tell little boys to process it differently. Some boys are told not to even cry,
right, yep,
and even if they're not told at home, society kind of says this is what men are like. So
mm-hmm.
you don't go out there crying and letting people know your feelings. So they process things very differently. And one of the things that I know very well is that they compartmentalize. So there's something that will bother them and then they just bottle it up.
Yeah,
Everything could be falling apart, but all those things that are falling apart are in this compartment, and then they're living their lives as if nothing's wrong. This is how, your husband, if you mad, say you mad at your husband, you sitting there losing sleep, and he's sitting there sleeping like a baby because
girl,
he can right, he can
right,
compartmentalize, but in our minds, we're working and replaying that situation over and over and over again, and like, how could he rest? How could he have any peace? Now you want to wake him up because it's pissing you off that
right,
he's
like,
so at peace with it, but he's bothered in a different way. He's just bottled it up. It's compartmentalized. It's over here, and they do that very, very well. So they love their sister, but they've dealt with the pain in a different kind of way, and they're kind of expecting her to get it together. They keep waiting for Slick to get it together. Well, she can't get it together because the tools that she needs, she's not been provided with them
mm-hmm.
to get it together. And I
Yeah,
wanted
because
to
I can't go ahead.
no, I was going to say something, and it was going to kind of go back to something you said about us being really hard on female leads, we're hard on women. Women are hard on women. We hard on each other. You
Mm,
know that we
mm-hmm.
are really hard on each other. We have high expectations even when our shit be stinking.
Come on, you better preach.
We be all tore up from the floor. We be online looking all greasy and sitting eating our chips, and we be sitting there judging people. I mean,
Right.
this is we do this. We've been this way. It's something that is probably one of the ugliest things about us. But it's the truth. We are very hard on each other. So it wasn't surprising to me, and it's never surprising to me that when you write a character that isn't traditionally loved, has qualities that are very unlikable, even if they're qualities you have.
Mm-hmm.
You- People who have them often attack those qualities because it's like no one wants to see themselves like that. They don't want to see them laying out like that. It takes someone who's in the process of healing or wants to, that like looks at that and goes, "That's a beautiful thing what she's doing."
Mm.
Otherwise, they'll be like, "She's weak for it. Why she have to be weak? Why she sitting there crying?" You know what I mean? She know how to kill people. What's she doing crying? Because you have never been upset and cried at the same time, angry and cried at the same time.
Been there. Yep. And
All
I just thought like you did that so well. And because I think even like you said, women are hard on women, and even it comes through the writings of the authors sometimes. So
right.
then
Mhm.
that's why the readers grab hold and then just go in hard on that,
Yeah.
that female lead, while the male lead could be F boy certified, and we're like, he's Bay. So
Right. Right.
so like definitely as you had put the layers to the story, especially Sarai's story, I appreciate how you this developed her character and gave us insight of her character. So I know I didn't judge her. I felt for her. I
Thank
really did. So thank you for that. And oh, Kimmy said when I'm angry and get to crying, I run.
you. I believe her too.
I believe Kimmy. I believe Kimmy. Um, let's see. We talked about the dynamics. Um, and you're right. Like the definitely Smoke just couldn't. He just wasn't capable to give her the support. But it was heartbreaking. Getting her point of view and then how she felt so distant from her father, that hurt me to read that. And especially so like not having the father engage, and then not having the mother, and the grandmother was not as like poor Sarai, like what do we expect her to be? Like we expect her to be this classy,
Right.
sophisticated. Are you serious? Like,
Mm.
really? Like the fact that she still like get up in the morning,
Mhm.
thank goodness, right? So yeah, she definitely needed support.
Mhm.
Well, let's talk about Malachi.
Ah.
Malachi. My goodness. So, creating a love interest for Sarai, especially understanding her trauma, the brokenness, the lack of support that she was getting, the bad relationships of the past, or bad situationships. I wouldn't even call it
Mhm.
relationship, but bad situationships. Can you walk us through your process of developing Malachi?
So I had this vision that um she would need help, and she would need help from someone, and that's kind of a theme almost in these stories, with exception to Maestro. Mina didn't exactly need help. She needed help with a different kind of problem that my yeah, that Maestro helped with immediately. But I knew that Slick would get into trouble because that was like her thing, and it would have been off character to not have her get in trouble, because that's what these men always expected. So I needed her to be in trouble, and I needed her to be in the type of trouble that Malachi would have to help her with. And so it took some time for me to figure out like what was the legal issue. And there's a reason why I specifically led with the law and him being a lawyer, because as you notice, I kind of like wrote in a family of lawyers. And so the possibility and probability of you seeing more of the Montgomerys um, hmm,
Mm.
is there. So I I knew that he would be helping her with a problem, but then I also knew that he would have to have a very dominating spirit, but not like the type of dominating that is harsh. Just the type that, when you come across a man, you know what I'm talking about. He a man. And immediately, like, you gonna do whatever daddy say. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, and I know that makes some people uncomfortable, the whole daddy thing, but I'm telling you, like, it works between them.
Come on,
This
right.
dynamic works between them. And I just like I knew that would be his thing, that he would be dominating in a way that she needed, because she was so used to, even as torn up as she was, at least on the surface, she was tough. She was tough. And she needed someone who could see through all that bullshit and tell her, settle down. Like, okay, this is what I need you to do. I need you to do XYZ, and you're going to do it. And then I needed that to be a person that she could trust and that would care for her. So that dynamic really played out with her and Malachi. He was supportive. He was always there, and he didn't seem to judge her, even though he was judging her. He was secretly judging her. He knew from the beginning that she was nothing but trouble. He knew that she had to have been protected by her brother and her father, because she didn't get in trouble, and it was like there was no way that this troublemaker would have no record. You know what I mean? Like, someone's been keeping her out of trouble. So he had his judgments. But as he started to see more of her, he knew that there was this story, there was something that she wasn't sharing, and that was something that he wanted to know more about. And that goes back to, I think, his own father, and the importance of community and serving the community, and not just helping these people who commit crimes or potentially committed a crime, and then spitting them back out into the streets, helping to reform them when they get them out of trouble, so that we don't keep seeing the same people in this law firm. You know what I mean? So because of that, kind of like that, the need to help, to like truly help and not just make money off of people, I think that that was a quality that Malachi had in him, that would help assist Sarai in her journey of healing. Um, but I needed him to be like a Superman, and I needed
Mm.
him to be like a sexy Superman, and a really smart one, but that one that wouldn't shy away from the dark side
Mm.
of her world. And you see, his brothers tease him about, his thug music, and just like he's Mr. Cool, even though not exactly, like, guns and all of that is
Right.
not his thing. But the idea, I saw a meme once, and it was like, me listening to my rap music about selling drugs and killing niggas, excuse my language, but that's, like doing that on my way to my 9 to 5. You know what I mean? I'm tough in my mind. I'm not really tough. So that's just how Malachi is. But it at least prepared him for Sarai, at least mentally. And so that's why he didn't think that he would have a problem with her lifestyle. And he didn't. He actually, he did okay. Yeah, he did all right.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting because, we knew that her story was coming. And in my mind, I was trying to figure out who would Aja pair Sarai with. And I was thinking someone in the streets just like her. And I was like,
Mhm.
I just didn't know. And so when Malachi came, I was like, perfect, right? And
Yeah.
Brenda just said perfect for Sarai. And you should see these comments though, like about how they feel about Malachi. She was trouble that he wanted to get into.
Yeah, he
And
did.
then Kimmy says, oh, he got all up in that
Yeah,
trouble.
he did. He sure did.
Wait, someone said the pull your hair, spank that, and tell you to misbehave type of man.
Yeah.
Right. So,
Mhm.
yeah, and I thought that was and even just their pairing, their coupling was organic. Like it wasn't like it just I like how it wasn't forced because as they were getting to know each other, they were also learning themselves as well. So that was just it made sense, right? So
Mhm.
at first when they got together and he was like, I need you to go home and I need you to stay in the house.
Right,
Do not leave. Go
right.
somewhere, sit down. And she just kind of like, what? Tell me to sit
Mhm.
down? But then
Right.
she did, right?
And she did. She did, and then she didn't because she got caught up. She was at the bar, and Maestro ended up showing up. But yeah, like she's hard headed, but she really did start to do all the things that he wanted her to do. Yeah.
What is Kimmy saying? Malachi was causing trouble in my happy home.
Yeah, because Kimmy is Mina is named for Kimmy. So Mina, she's married to well, in her mind, I haven't given a wedding yet, but Kimmy is Maestro's woman. But when she started to read Malachi, she's like, "Oop, okay, do I want to be Maestro's woman or do I want to belong to Malachi?"
All right. So Jennifer already talking about updates. Hold on, Jennifer. We're gonna get to that question because we got it. We got you, Jennifer. We got you. Um um so let's talk about the plot twist.
Okay.
Um
What was the plot twist?
Well, I think, or when Bear, right? So we knew somebody was behind the scenes causing all the chaos
Mhm.
in Sarai's life. And then I was screaming, like, Malachi, no, no,
Right.
don't go to the detective. No. My blood pressure was going up. I said, no,
He was such
no.
a square with that, like, and I mean, from a lawyer perspective, I can understand because he wants to get to the bottom of what's happening. He wants to provide all information. He wants the investigation to go smoothly. He doesn't want to appear that he's like not being cooperative with the entire investigation. So I understand, but like you're at a safe house, but I don't think that he truly understood how deep this threat was.
Hmm.
And even though he should have, and it's just, we're not always smart.
Yeah.
We can be very smart and then not, all at the same time. We make a rash decision and then it just shifts everything right away. And I think that's exactly what happened. Here he is inviting this detective to his safe house, and yeah, it made him vulnerable.
Yeah, I was just like, no, don't do it, don't do it. And Kimmy says she was upset with him, but she got why he did it, as you just described. But she says, why this man ain't do some research or something? So yeah, and I guess we needed to see that, right? Like, um,
I had to make him a little dumb. You know what I mean? In that moment, because otherwise we would never get to the place where I could just unveil. Bear. Like he needed to come out. I needed that to happen. I had gotten Sarai help, and like I had progressed her as a character, and I needed to end it. Not just because I wanted it to, but it was time in the story to get to, like, okay, who is behind all of this, and what will be the result of that. So I kind of had to make him a tad ignorant of the possibility that someone would impersonate someone, and to gain access to where he was.
And I think not him not being street savvy
Exactly.
was good in that case, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because like you could have created this street savvy dude, Superman, and he would have been like, oh, I would not, you know what I mean? They probably
Right.
wouldn't even be in the safe house. He'd probably be shooting up things in the street, right? And we probably would never get to the bear and the Carmen revelation at that point. So that was wise. That was
Yeah.
wise, but it still had me on edge, of course. So nails biting, I was like, ooh. I used to ask you like, why did he do that? So but he was, I mean, he was law smart, as Brenda stated, but not street smart. So
Right, exactly.
yeah, yeah. And Sharon even says he seemed a little naive to the streets. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Um, because he didn't have the big picture like Smoke and Maestro. They knew that there was something going on, and they had a sense that Carmen was behind it.
Mhm.
He just didn't have that perspective because he was the one trying to save Sarai out of her legal issues, legal
Mhm.
challenges, and trying to be her protector at the same time. So
Right, right.
yeah, yeah. So Kimmy says she was fighting air. We were, all of us were. So let's talk about the Bear and Carmen dynamics in front of Sarai, and how she processed that,
Mhm.
and her love right there,
Yeah.
um, being held hostage.
The thing is, I literally cried writing that entire scene. Once she gets inside, gains access to the house, she sees Malachi, and then, she's now under attack from Bear. And it's a very emotional thing, the moment that I'm starting to unwrap it, because I know that everything's getting ready to come out, and everything as in that her mom is getting ready to show up. And I knew how emotional that would be for her to see her mother, because while we the readers have, I'm not the reader, but like I've been writing this, we're always kind of aware of Carmen and her presence and just waiting for it to happen. I think for them, the characters inside, there's always this expectation that they won't see her because she's not revealed herself in all this time. And even as she's doing things that has a this effect like a ripple in a pond, even though she's doing these things, you still don't see her. At the end of Maestro, there's the scent of her perfume, but there's no visual of her.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this constant, we're not going to ever see Carmen. Then here I am, I'm writing now, Carmen, the very woman that was needed her entire life. And I know that I'm not going to let her survive. I knew she was not going to survive this experience. So then I knew that I would be taking Carmen from Sarai again. And that
Mm.
made me very emotional. And then when I wrote it happening, I cried. I had tears in my eyes the entire time I wrote that scene, because I was taking the hope from her again. Like, she's gone again, and for real this time. There's never any coming back from that.
Mm.
No coming back. So it was very it was just, it sits with me that in this series I've killed people. Um some of them have been fun to kill. But Jimmy was not fun. It was
Mm-mm.
not fun to see Jimmy die. That I cried. I cried
Mhm.
right at that.
Mhm.
And I cried being Smoke, um, just because he lost his friend. And so then I end this story arc with another important death. And even though Carmen is hated, um, she's still her mother, you know? And it's like you hear about children all the time. It takes a lot for a child to hate their parent. It takes a lot for a child to separate from their parent, even a parent that is abusive, terrible to them. Children will still love you. Children will still, they will love their mommy and their daddy, no matter how they're treated.
Mhm.
So, despite everything, she still loved her mother. She was hoping for something. And then to have this glimpse of her, to see how beautiful she was, to see how she looked, to know this is my face. I look like my mother. This is where I get these eyes from. This is where I get this hair from. It's not just my imagination. She really is this beautiful. She's still beautiful. And then for her to be gone.
Right there. I
Okay.
hear you.
Oh,
Yeah, that was definitely, and Jennifer mentioned she, cried for Sarai at that part, really.
yeah.
And Kimmy mentioned she couldn't stand Carmen and Maestro, but at the end of Slick, she was stunned. And Sharon felt that scene. And it was, and especially when Bear was like, "Oh, you want to come back and get them. You want to come back." And I was like, "Whoa, that was interesting." You know what I mean? Because from the Maestro book, I thought definitely those two were partners in the actions that they were partaking in, and then to see them at odds with each other definitely left questions in my head. And I'm certain it left questions with Sarai. And so, um, good that she went on to the therapy, but I'm certain that there are still questions
Oh,
about.
definitely. There have to be still questions in her mind because so I wanted to say this about Carmen, and I did this with Smoke. If you notice, I Smoke was this unlikable, terrible father in the Soulmate series,
Yes.
and then I give him a story, and people were like, "Why would you give him a story? We hate him. There's no story. There's no way I'm going to like him, but I'm going to read it anyway because I want to see what you're going to do." And then they read him, and then they loved him. Because here's the thing, and I said it before when we did the discussion on Smoke. And you said this earlier. Everyone has a story.
Hmm.
There's nothing, we don't just arrive at a moment. There's like all these things that are occurring before we get to the moment. Now there are going to be people who hate you and will forever and always hate you. Maestro is never going to be someone who looks at his mother with fondness. He's just not going to. You know, he was older, so he just didn't have the romanticized view of his mother that Sarai had.
Yeah.
All she had a lot of imagination built into her memory of her mother and a lot of yearning involved in her memory of her mother. So she has a whole different experience when it comes to her mother. But either way, Carmen was a woman and she made a decision out of her anger with Smoke that she couldn't turn back and come back from. So it's like, she was jealous, she was resentful, she hated him, she was mad at him. She was stupid. It was really stupid and
Hmm.
selfish. It was very
Hmm.
selfish and ugly. But sometimes, like, and I've never made this type of decision, but I've made some decisions where I said something, and later that day, because of the impact of what I said, I think, damn, I wish I could have went back and just not said that, because now all this is now the impact of the thing that I said. So imagine walking out and going as far as she did, and now thinking at some point on in this experience, maybe a month later, thinking about what am I doing? Especially looking at Bear, you know what I mean? His hairy ass, and you know what I mean? Like complaining and stuff. She probably thinking, what was I thinking? But she had made this decision, and Smoke is not the type of man that you just walk back and say, I'm sorry. You know what
Right.
I mean? She was worried, probably. I'm not telling you she was. I'm not telling you that story yet, but she was probably worried that what the impact would be if she were to turn around and change her mind. So she had to go with what she had to go with it. At this point, she made a decision. Now you got to stick with it, and sticking with it built a lot of probably regret in her all the time that she left her children. But you know, I know that Sarai in that last scene with the doctor, you know, talking to Dr. Patton, and saying, you know, she was interested in knowing, you know, this was her internal dialogue. She knew that there was a story about her mother. And of course, you know, there's probably going to be a time when I will want to share what made Carmen do the things she did, you know, who she was, and how we ended up and how we arrived there. So yeah, there may be something coming that shows. I know that's what you're getting at, right?
Yeah, because like when Carmen showed up, when she appeared, quickly I was expecting her to be in full partnership with Bear
Mm.
and possibly even unalive her own daughter and Malachi.
Yeah, yeah.
And then when they were going at each other in the comments, everybody's like, Bear talked too much.
He did. He was running his mouth.
He did talk a lot. He was unhinged, but then to see them at odds with each other, and then when Bear was like, "Oh, you trying to come back and get them," and so then it was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. There's more,
Mm-hmm.
to this story."
Mm-hmm.
Um, and of course, we didn't get the answers, but I'm certain, like I said, it just left those question marks for Sarai. And yeah, I kind of want to know. Someone mentioned your Kimmy. Here's Kimmy. Are we going to get a Carmen book?
See, I told Martha. I told her that I wasn't going to make no promises because I didn't want anybody knocking on my door asking when is this coming, okay?
Right.
And I got so many other things that I still need to do, and I can't tell you when something is coming. But I, because you all are here, and there's so many that aren't here, but you're here. So I will tell you that there are a set of stories that will be coming. And please do not ask when. Please
You hear that, Kimmy? Don't ask when.
don't ask when.
Just let
Okay.
her do the Lord's work.
Right. But there are a set of stories that will be coming, and they're called like origin stories. Okay. So they will be, it's not just Carmen, there are some other people that are involved. And I already have the covers made and everything. You know what I mean? Like I know what these people look like. I know things about them. And it's just to give you a little deeper view into some of these characters that we are hearing about, but we're not getting a lot of information about. And that was intentional on my part. It wasn't to keep you buying stories and books or whatever, you know. It was because I wanted to focus on the arc, you know, of this particular clan. If I continue to dig deeper into Carmen, and you know what I mean, like I think that I would have started to move away from what I wanted to happen for Slick, which was for her to develop into a confident, more healed version of herself, for her to have a romance with Malachi. And I didn't want to delay that with too much of Carmen. So it was really intentional for me to make sure that I completed the story arc. So now that story arc is done. Now I can, go into certain characters, and they won't be very long. They'll be um more like novella length stories, but you're going to get a lot of information now about this individual character. And like I said, there's 3 books in what is called Enigma origin stories. So, and yes, I have covers and everything. Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
it's already been
Okay.
figured out like last year. So I knew we would arrive at this moment, and I'm letting y'all know. No one else knows.
All right, we got the first exclusive. So, and I loved again the title Enigma Series. I think originally when we started with Smoke, and I was like Enigma, but like now that we're in the third book, especially like even Carmen being an Enigma, like it's just
Mhm.
like perfect that you called the series that. So, tell us what's next, like because I think I appreciated how it ended. We are. And someone just mentioned it. Let me see who was that in the comments. Oh, Brenda. She wanted to. She said she can't wait for the soulmates, women, and the siblings, the Lewis siblings, to get together. So, with that, tell us what you have next.
So as you can see, and if you've been following me on social media, I just recently posted a cover for We Are One. I even have it in poster format, so you can see here um, the We Are One cover. I don't have a problem saying that it will center around a wedding. Um, and this wedding will bring the siblings together, and not just siblings, but the entire clan. Everybody's getting ready to come together because I've just wanted to, from the very beginning I knew that I wanted the family to be connected. I wanted to give to these people what sometimes never happens, which is a connection with your entire family that's been torn apart due to circumstances. So I knew that I wanted to do that all along, and I knew that it would happen, and people were asking would that ever happen, and I told them yes. And originally, what was the plan was never to put them together in one of the 3 books. That was never going to happen because again, I didn't want to derail
Yeah.
the storyline by introducing this major development. But I had originally lied to y'all, not intentionally, but I did lie, and I was like, I'm going to be putting them together, and look out in my newsletter, it's coming. And I was, some months ago when I started to write the story, I struggled because Slick and Sarai, she was so angry that all the interactions that I was writing were with an angry woman, and I knew that that would ruin the the reunion. So I decided, rather than to write this story before she got the help she needed, to go ahead and finish her story, allow that to be completed. This way, all the interactions now that she has with her siblings are one of love. Not to say she's not still feeling certain kind of way about certain type of things, but it's not that angry, hostile individual that you would have met prior to her story. So I had to break a promise that I made by delaying it. Some people were like, I was disappointed that I didn't see, them come together. It was never going to be within her book, but I had intended to write the short story and it be released prior. But it's just, to me, trust me, it's just so much better that it's coming after. You're going to see a better Slick. It's going to make the reunion so much better and richer. So that's We Are One is the story. It was originally titled something else, and then I hit up my graphic designer and friend Sean, and I said, you know what? There's something this that we need to another element I want to add to this cover, because it's definitely going to be a romance as well involved.
And everyone says the cover is beautiful and they're
Love
excited.
it. I love
So
it.
I'm looking forward to it. And I think you're right. It makes sense that we got Sarai's story before we get the connection between the soulmate and the Enigma. Um, so guys, when you see the cover, notice the E and the S
Yes.
at the top corner. So which is so cool. Um, so we are. Let's see. Any comments, questions from our lovely readers? Kimmy, any questions? Jennifer, Brenda, Antoinette. Thank you all, ladies, for being a part of this discussion. You guys were
Yes.
just and I wanted to, Jennifer kind of came through with a testimony when she said, I was glad that I had that talk and reconnected with my dad in 2017 because his lung cancer came back in 2018. He passed away on New Year's Eve in 2020. She said, I always felt he loved my brother more than me, and he told me it wasn't the case. He told me that I was a girl, so although he loved me, I needed my mother's love more. So
Wow.
Jennifer definitely, I believe, is truly connected to this
Yeah.
story. And so, um, again, we appreciate your gifts and how you always connect spiritually in your works. It shows, it shines each time. And so, I'm grateful, and I know the ladies are grateful, your readers are grateful for um, putting your soul, heart, and soul into all your works. And so,
Thank you
even though
so
this was
much.
like a departure from your signature style, it still was your style because it was still your soul in
Thank
this
you.
series.
That's beautiful. Don't make me cry. Thank you. Oh. Mm.
You are welcome. You are welcome. And Brenda just says Sarai's story was her favorite. Was her favorite.
Oh,
So,
wow. Thank you. That means a lot to me, really, because I knew that it would be different, and I knew that when you pull someone into something and then you change on them, even if it's the right thing to do, it can be a difficult thing to do. And as I said earlier about, following your passion and living your truth and um being true to your pen, it's not always easy because we do, especially in this business, we have to consider the business side, the business model, the money making. And there is money in writing to market. There is money in being consistent and doing the same things, same similar types of things, and not switching up on your readers. But I have always hoped and prayed that the type of reader that sticks with me is one that hears my heart, because that's what I'm given when I'm writing my story. So while I may get some other people that are just there for the entertainment, that's fine. I love you too, all y'all. You know what I mean? The ones that hear my heart, I knew would hear what I was doing and why I switched. And like you said, it really wasn't. It was like, okay, I told the story different, but I was still saying the same thing.
mhm,
That,
mhm.
like in Smoke and Maestro, they were love stories and they were stories about healing and redemption.
Yep.
So I just told it a little differently, and I love that you all, as I see your comments coming across, I just am so blessed, and I appreciate you so much. You have no idea, because it was you who left the reviews. It was you who came into my inbox or sent me text messages. Kimmy sending me text messages through her reading of the book. With your reactions to things. I mean, like, it's you all that really fuel my confidence, my peace in what I'm doing. You really help me. You're God's gift, So I may be giving something to you, but you're giving it right back. And I just really appreciate that you're on this journey and that you even care that I have done what I've done. Thank you so much for that. Um,
And everyone's mentioning again that you are true to your pen game. You continue to be consistent, and it's you. And we thank you
Thank
again
you.
for being you. So we want to leave you with any parting words. Before I do that, please, if you readers, lovely ladies, if you have not left your review, make sure you leave a review. Um, because she's close to 100 reviews, and we know how the game goes in Amazon, the visibility, the exposure that one gets once they reach that 100. So do your best to get her over that, if you have not done so. So, and we know Amazon, I'll tell you from my experience, Amazon's sometimes slow in
They're
posting
very
reviews,
slow.
but
Yes.
just do your diligence and pray it'll come through, because it did for me. It did.
Did
So
eventually. Thank you so much for that. Because yeah, you're right. The reviews, we can say that they don't matter. They do. They matter for different reasons. I think that it's a shame that it's gotten to the place where we have to care so much about how many, but I think that a review does tell me, it tells the author where what we got right, or at least a perception of what we've written. And we may even learn something good or bad about our stories from reading these reviews. So even if it's a rating and that's all you're able to manage, it's still helpful to the grand scheme of things. So I just appreciate all of you who have already done that on whatever platform you were able to. And if you still are in the process of reading, the rest of the book and leaving a review, I appreciate what you do in the future. You asked me, if I had any parting words. And so, I gotta say thank you so much for this experience with you through the entire series. You've been here from the very beginning, doing an awesome job moderating. You are very blessed to do this thing. Really, you are. Your voice is important. Don't ever lose it. Continue to shine as you are right now.
thank you.
And if there's ever a time or anything I can do, and I'm saying it on air, anything I can do to help you continue to get this type of spotlight, because you're really great in it. You just let me know, because just such a beautiful job. Thank you so much for this, Martha. Um, and thank you, Sean, who was in the background. You do not see her face, y'all. She's been here from the very beginning, and I ain't just talking about from the smoke. I'm talking about very beginning of Aja on this journey that you see. She always makes me look good. And she's doing this right now. I know she like, go on, girl. I know she back. That's exactly what she's saying. She's shaking her head. It's all right. But I love you, Sean, and thank you so much for making sure that this is a seamless process that our readers can enjoy. And I thank you all, whether you are here on the live experience or you will be tuning in later. I thank you for everything that you've ever done. Whether you read my book and you told somebody, or you didn't tell nobody, you just talked to me about it. With whether you left a review, whether all you did was buy it and you ain't read nothing, you just like seeing my face, whatever it is, however you get in, you fit in. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you so much, Kimmy, um, for so much of your cheerleading and encouragement and your enthusiasm. Thank you, Erica. If she's still here, she is actually my editor. Thank you
Okay.
so much for making sure that my voice is heard in the way that the world wants to hear it, and is at peace with hearing it. And thank you for just being encouraging, especially with me writing 2 books in 1 month, 2 weeks apart. Erica had to deal with that craziness as well. And I just love you all. So I think that that's all I had to say. I hope you will see more things from me coming this story. The plan, don't be mad at me. The plan is that it's done before the end of the month. It may be the first week of August, though. We'll see. But the plan is the end of the month. And the reason why is because I'll be at an event in August and I want to hopefully have that with me. So we'll see what happens. I'm close to done. So it is very possible. And Erica, you may be hearing from me soon. Okay. And yeah, yeah, so I do have a couple of copies of Slick still available. Um, Paperback copies. If you wanted an autographed copy, you would just go to my website, ajatherewriter.com, and purchase there. I have not forgotten you, Martha. I'm making sure I don't forget. So yeah, but if you want it, you kind of need to do something fast in a hurry, because I do have this event and I need to make sure that I have everything that I need for the event, and no one is without their copies that they would want to buy. So I think that's all I have for tonight.
All right. Thank you all again. And thank you, ladies, for expressing your appreciation for me as well. I love Aja and I love her work. And so this was easy to do. And so I'm just glad that I was able to hang out with Aja and have these discussions, the entire series. So, and I definitely would like to do this more because you guys can see I love reading,
Yeah.
and when an author delivers like Aja, this is too easy, too easy. So, so we look forward to more from you, Aja, and ladies. Thank you all for being great in the discussions, the comments, phenomenal. Love the energy, could feel the energy from all of you all.
Yeah.
So that's what makes this discussion even more rich, is you all, and so. And I think it definitely gave Aja a nice boost,
Yes,
a
yeah.
needed boost. And so, again, we look forward to more in the future. And so we close out tonight. Again, thank you all and good night.
Good night.